Hello and welcome to the Boston Bros Political Podcast. I'm Jim Campanini, co-host of the show with Boston Herald political columnist Peter Lucas. Peter, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
A lot is going on, huh?
Spring is here.
Yes. This podcast today is being brought to you from the InsideLowell studios. And the sponsor is WellPoint, the only health plan offering healthcare benefits exclusively to Massachusetts GIC members. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. Well, Peter, what's going on with Elon Musk? Huh? I thought there was another earthquake the other day when he came out. He was out in Wisconsin talking to a group and said that he and his group might be turning their attention to how Congress gets wealthier and wealthier every year, while most Americans just either stay even or get poorer and poorer.
You know, I'm not a fan of electric cars, although I'm a fan of Elon Musk. But, you know, the way things are going, the way people are attacking Musk and the dealerships and torching Teslas across the country, I'm considering taking the money I make from this show and buying a Tesla.
Yeah.
Just to cruise around and show people that I'm all for what Donald Trump is doing.
Well, since we don't get paid anything, it looks like you're gonna you probably have to get a little plastic one. You're better off trying to get a Hess truck.
Well, I've seen people with sledgehammers smashing Tesla toy trucks. I can't believe it.
Yeah, that'd be something. But what did you think of that? You think he was just throwing that out there to shake up the Democrats, or it would really be something? I mean, arguably, a lot of Americans think about that. They know their Congress people because they grow up with them a lot. A lot of times they're from the district, their hometown, or whatever. No one goes in. Well, no one goes out the way they went in. You know what I mean?
You're talking about the congressional delegation from the various states coming home richer than when they went into the office. Yeah. I've known several congressmen over the years, and I'm sure you have too. I've never known one to come home poorer than when he went to Washington.
Yeah, no, I've never known, and it's amazing how they can acquire property and better jobs if they ever leave Congress. But I remember when I was the editor of the Lowell Sun, I wrote dozens of editorials about the Insider Trading Act in Congress. They were exempt from a lot of the insider trading laws, and then it got such to the point became an election issue, and then they passed a law that is in effect right now, but there are dozens of ways to get around it, it's they make out financial disclosure forms. They put on their form that their wealth is between $100,000 and $20 million. Nothing is specific. Nothing is. It's really in who checks on it.
You get to Congress, you don't have to pay for anything.
Yeah.
And if you run short of money, you just have to have a fundraiser. And now it's become a year-round practice. Politicians now don't hold events once or twice a year. They solicit money weekly or almost monthly through the internet.
Yeah.
And there's hardly a politician around who doesn't have a slush fund available to use at his discretion.
Yeah. And who was it? Raul Emanuel said, don't let a good crisis go to waste. Because I remember you a couple of weeks ago saying right after one crisis, you got a solicitation in the mail from your senator, U.S. Senator Ed Markey or something.
Oh, yeah.
He wanted money. I got a couple from Congresswoman Lori Trahan. There's always a crisis, and they want money to fight it.
But, it's so bad. Eddie Markey and Elizabeth Warren and Lori Trahan, they're asking them for $10, $5. It's pretty desperate. Desperate.
Well, couple of weeks ago on the show, I termed the word bulldozed. I said the Democrats were getting bulldozed, and I got some comments from people. They loved it, and maybe we'll be seeing that. But I think Elon Musk and his team really did a lot of justice to their efforts the other night when they appeared on Fox News for an hour-long show with Bret Baier, and you got to see them for the first time. These are successful individuals. Most of them were businessmen or researchers.
Oh, they ran companies. They all ran
companies, and they made a lot of sense. They're not doing this. They're not getting a penny of payment. And some of the things that they brought up about the federal government, just make your head spin about the 574 agencies and all these They mentioned either it was the IRS or Social Security, 170 different computer systems, and they weren't compatible, and they said you wonder why all these issues crop up, and there's almost $500 million of waste and fraud that they know about at Social Security, and they can't do anything about it because there's no way to track down these payments that go overseas, and things are going to taxpayers that are 115, 20. Social Security is
120 years old.
120 years old. And they're trying to get to the bottom of it. And why aren't the Democrats joining in, saying, "Hey, here's our opening. Let's do a bipartisan effort. Acknowledge this," and because it's not the Democrats' fault, all this largesse and exit. It's all of them. Democrats, Republicans, all these administrations have turned a blind eye to this. But then I think, as someone said, maybe the Democrats know there's going to be even more that's going to be turned up and as they go deeper and deeper in this.
That could happen because, according to the Musk team, there's 20 million people collecting Social Security who are not entitled to it. It's either fraud, abuse, waste, incompetence, one computer not talking to another computer. People die and they continue to collect Social Security. It's disgraceful.
Yeah, and I mean, that resonates with the public. The liberals and the radicals in the party are trying to drown out Musk, make him out to be the evil empire and talk about, but I don't see it resonate. Even their rallies. There's a dozen people, three dozen people.
A lot of these rallies are paid protesters.
Yeah.
They're professional protesters.
And what do you think resonates more with the public? Some of all this waste and fraud and people who don't deserve it getting this money, and now someone's doing something about it. They've heard these stories for years, decades, but now someone is actually doing something about it or trying to do something about it. And I think that's what's resonating with the public, not the other end.
I think it's resonating too. And the only, quote, program the Democrats seem to have is to oppose everything that Trump does. If Trump is for it, they're against it. And it doesn't make any sense at all. That's why the Democratic Party is in free fall.
Well, is that a winning strategy long term? Is that
I don't think so. I think it's a car wreck. And you notice that Governor Gavin Newsom in California is trying to get out of the car wreck.
Yeah.
And trying to, inch his way into the middle. It's not going to work because he's been such a left-wing extremist, but at least he's trying.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it just appears that there's no way out right now. There's no, how can you just, all these state attorneys generals across the country and Democrat states, they were spending more and more money fighting Trump in court, and then the elites of the party saying, that their legislators, Congress people aren't doing enough to fight Trump. Well, what can they fight? And they say the rule of law. He's breaking the law. he's testing the law, okay, by doing some things like he's, deporting criminal, illegal aliens, okay? Now, I acknowledge some people have got caught up in this and who might not have broken the law. They're still in the country illegally, and they should be dealt with fairly. But there's always going to be some people who get caught up in this net, and I would hope that the Trump administration comes up with some guidelines to deal with that. But by and large, most of these people, you see the rap sheet, it's longer than a telephone book.
The people that he is deporting, these criminal illegal immigrants, are the dregs of society. These people are even worse than the criminal, homegrown criminal element. They make the mafia look like a winning organization compared to what the crimes that they commit. All these murder and rape of young women and child molesters and gun runners and fentanyl dealers. It's disgraceful. If they had their way, they'd tear down society. They would hurt society to begin with. But given free reign, we wouldn't have a civilized country.
Well, I think when the few reporters that have gone out into the neighborhoods where there were a high percentage of immigrants living in those neighborhoods, the people have responded and say they feel much happier, more safe and secure. And these are U.S. citizens saying this because they knew that there were illegal immigrants living among them.
Right.
And they don't like it any better than anyone else. I mean, they're working hard for their families and getting ahead. And to see someone come in and set up camp, get everything for free, and then selling drugs with children in the neighborhood and stealing and robbing and burglary. I mean, it's just.
Well, how do you account that there's so much opposition to what Trump is doing and Tom Homan are doing, ridding the country of these illegal immigrants, criminals? Why is there so much opposition in Boston and in Massachusetts, in your opinion?
I think it's George Soros funded. I don't think that if you were to do a private poll of Massachusetts residents, see, it's different with Massachusetts. We're a different group entirely. They would support Trump on this policy, immigration overall. But to play ball in Massachusetts, that's why there are more independents in the state. People try to stay both sides. They don't want to. They don't want to really speak up. But I think overall, they would support the president on this immigration policy.
Well, why don't the politicians follow suit?
It's a good question. Why don't they?
Well, that's for us to find out why.
Well, because they're going to be losing big time. All they're doing now, and I mean, I've seen some of the comments by some of them. I mean, they waver a lot. But if they want federal funding for bridges, like the Cape Cod bridges, for schools, for transportation and stuff, I mean, you got to start meeting someone halfway. You got to meet in the middle, and yeah, make your position clear. But you know what? Fighting and filing lawsuits that I don't think are going to come to much in the long run. I mean, what do? They think they're going to fight for 3 years, 4 years until Trump is gone and everything's going to go back to normal? Well, normal as they see it. I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't.
Well, so much has happened since Trump has been president. It seems as though he's been president for 3 years instead of 3 months. Right. So what are the Democrats going to do in year 2 or year 3 when Trump is still president?
Oh, man, they'll be hysterical.
They run out of gas now. And unless they change, which I don't see any sign of them changing, they're going to be even worse shape.
Well, you know what? I don't see any solutions coming from that side of the political aisle. And it's that's the thing. I think they have to start offering solutions rather than attack dogs and arguments that just aren't resonating with the people. But you know what? Going back to the sanctuary business, you wrote a column this week that appeared in the Boston Herald where Governor Maura Healey said Massachusetts is not a sanctuary state. I think if you did a poll and asked the people in Massachusetts, are we a sanctuary state? Overwhelming people are going to say yes. How can she say no? We're not?
You don't have to talk to the citizens, talk to the immigrants. They know it's a sanctuary state. That's why they came here. And that's why they all get full benefits and, you know, took over the hotels and motels and are living a pretty good life here compared to the life that they led where they came from. And the only difference is that we're paying for it.
Do you think Governor Healey is trying to appease federal officials or straddle the fence there? Because in your column you wrote how she is saying, "Hey, there's no law. We're not a sanctuary state." But then she says we cooperate and collaborate with federal officials.
I think
at the same time they're booting out. You got a district court judge, just yesterday, trying to call in a federal, an ICE agent because they scooped up a guy in the middle of a trial. You know,
I think the governor's trying to have it both ways. Mm-hmm. She has to appease her left-wing progressive base, which she's doing by attacking Trump. At the same time, she's expressing concern how federal funds under Trump are being cut back. And Massachusetts is going to have to suffer the cutbacks. And how she works her way through these two diametrically opposed positions is something to behold. Mm-hmm. And so far she's been able to do it, but the cuts haven't come in yet. What's going to happen when suddenly there's no billions of dollars for the two Cape Cod bridges that have fallen down? So along those lines, she's surviving, but she's not excelling.
Well, and then yesterday also there was a story that came out that the Trumpite administration might soon be turning its attention towards $8.7 billion in funding that's been given to Harvard through the years. And what has happened to that money and where it's been spent. So there's a whole lot of shaking going on.
Who would have thought after all these years, Harvard is being investigated for anti-Semitism?
Yeah.
The center of liberal American thought in the country for years, the respected institution like Harvard now being investigated for anti-Semitism. It's almost unbelievable. But it's happening and it's true.
Yeah.
And they deserve to be investigated. And if they found that they do discriminate against Jews, it's only natural those funds be cut, in my opinion.
Well, they're even making personnel changes. I mean, the head of the Middle Eastern Studies Department, he was told to take a hike. I guess he was on sabbatical. They don't want him back. You look into his record and performance and stuff, and he was allied with a nonprofit that supports a Palestinian terrorist group in Gaza. It's just incredible how these people come here and do these things, you know, and exploit their station in the United States to do this, and now they're getting called out. And you know, I'm glad that is taking place. Once again, Harvard did it. The government didn't do it. Harvard replaced this person. So something is going on there. But I want to turn your attention to this. This is my local newspaper, and yours, the Lowell Sun. Here's a headline in yesterday's newspaper. Data. Number of migrants, families, and shelters down 30%. Now, you look at that, if you're a taxpayer in the state, you're saying, wow, that's pretty good. And, of course, you look at the story, and it says that the families, the immigrant families and households in July 2024 hit a peak of 7,600. Now they're down to about 5,800, a 30% drop. And the reporter writes, providers said the reduced number of families in shelters is a result of restrictive policies put in place over the past year by Governor Maura Healey and legislative Democrats. But Republicans can point to the Trump administration's moves to clamp down the southern border. Who should take more credit for the 30% drop?
The reason we have a drop in these illegal immigrants is because Donald Trump shut the border down.
Yes.
No one in Massachusetts will give him any credit, at least no Democrat will. But that's the fact of the matter. He shut the border down that Joe Biden opened. And if they want to praise anyone and be consistent with their progressive values, they should be praising Joe Biden for opening the border.
I know. Well, with this, the restrictive policies, I mean, basically what it is the families can only stay up to 9 months in a taxpayer-funded shelter, and then they have to move on. Unless the mother of the family, the woman, whomever is pregnant, they can be extended and stuff. So just think, if Trump didn't shut the border, you'd still have more waves of people coming in, and the people who had to move out after 9 months, they'd be, these new people coming in illegally across the border would be filling those slots.
Jim,
so you're not fooling anybody. It's because right now it's down to a trickle at the southern border. You couldn't even field the football team with the number of people who are trying to elude border security right now, where a year ago, 146,000 people a day were trying to get through the border security. Most of them were under the Biden administration.
What makes matters worse is the immigrants have come here under what's so-called the right to shelter law. Mm. And the governor and the liberals have used that law to help support the illegal immigrant community. But the law was passed 40 years ago, and it was passed and signed into law by Mike Dukakis, who was governor at the time, to help residents of Massachusetts, not immigrants coming into the state, but residents of the state, homeless people. And it's not been interpreted that way. That's why you'll see Mayor Wu in Boston or Governor Healey at the State House, when they refer to illegal immigrants, they call them residents.
Yeah.
To make them eligible for this welfare programs. Yeah. When in fact, that was not the intention of the law.
No. Well, the one good thing in this story, it mentions that, Governor Healey and her administration now is, reversing course. And while these shelters were set up for immigrants, okay, and, illegal immigrants, now they're filling these slots with families that are homeless or people that are homeless in Massachusetts. They are in most cases, U.S. citizens. Well, we didn't do it for U.S. citizens before this wave of illegal immigrations. And a lot of these hotels, community hotels, became shelters and other buildings. So it looks like now we're going to take care of the U.S. citizens after learning a lesson from the illegal immigrants who had no place to stay. We wouldn't take these people, U.S. citizens, off the street and give them a leg up. But now we're going to do it after the fact.
And we don't know how much it's costing. It's costing billions. What I'd like to see, but I have no hope I'll ever see it, is a politician, the governor or U.S. senator, Eddie Markey, Elizabeth Warren, all in favor of illegal immigrants coming into the country and helping them. I'd like to see one of them come up and make a speech to thank the Massachusetts taxpayer.
Mm-hmm.
for putting up with this and paying for it and getting no thanks from it.
Well, maybe that's the next flyer from Ed Markey or Lori Trahan. Let's thank the Massachusetts taxpayer for funding all these programs. Please send a $5, $10 donation to my campaign committee at the bottom. Something.
If someone did that, they'd get a nice column out of me.
Yeah. So, last thing I'm going to say on this before we move on here, the shelters are down 30%, and that's a good sign. Okay, people are moving on. I don't know where they're going, but this year, Healy still wants over $1 billion in the $62 billion budget to fund these shelters. And I say to myself, well, if the population of the shelters is going down, why isn't the money demanded going down too? So maybe, is that just...
Never happened.
Okay. All right.
But listen, there's hope, because when Trump runs for re-election in 4 years, you can vote for him again. How's that?
Oh yeah, let's talk about this. So here's another thing, that is like an earthquake. Trump makes a comment. He says he's really serious, and the press corps just believes him instead of just smirking and smiling and say, yeah, all right, Donald Trump, you think you could run? I mean, the 22nd amendment to the Constitution, okay, was approved in 1951 after Franklin Delano Roosevelt was elected to 4 consecutive terms as president. That says that it limits a presidential term to only 2 terms in office or 8 years. And it's in the Constitution.
Yes, but, you leave out this. I think in one of these late night phone calls to Vladimir Putin in Russia that Trump made his decision to run again for the 3rd term.
How's that?
Well, because Putin did the same thing in Russia. In 2008, he had served 2 terms in Russia, and they had a law that you couldn't serve 3 terms. So he had his buddy Dmitry Medvedev run for president, and he was elected. And once he was elected, he made Putin prime minister. And then later on, Medvedev resigned as president, and Putin became president again. So I'm sure he probably told that story to Trump. And Trump said, if you can do it, I can do it.
Yeah. Well, that's a great story, Peter.
I call it the Putinization of American politics.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. And then, but right away, the gullible press, oh, he's serious. This is tyranny. We told you so, and everything. And, I saw Trump walking from Air Force One, and the reporter, the second day of this story, shouted out to him. He just, are you serious about this? He's just walking off the way. Oh, yeah. We're thinking about it. There are ways.
I want to see a Trump, the next Trump rally. Everyone around 8 more years. Yeah, 8 more years. Forget 4. 8 more years.
And then the scenarios they put in there. Oh well, he could. Vance could. Vice President Vance could run for president, and then once he's elected president, turn the baton over to Trump, who would be his vice president on the thing.
Sure, just like Putin.
Yeah, just like Putin. But in 1801, I believe the founding fathers basically wrote a law, and it's in our Constitution. I think it might be the 14th
By
Amendment.
1801, they were grandfathers.
Well,
founding fathers.
Yeah.
They were founding grandfathers.
There's a law that if you're disqualified to be for either president or vice president, okay, you can't run for the other office, okay, no matter what. So if you're disqualified under the 2-term law that's now in place under the Constitution, the 22nd Amendment, Trump would be disqualified from running for vice president too, and so the legal hurdles, and to change the Constitution, you need 3/4 of all the state legislators legislatures across the country to ratify a change. And then first you got to ratify a proposal to make a change. It'll take 10, 15, 20 years to do something like that. That's how the founding fathers made it so difficult to change the Constitution. So I think the press has really been hoodwinked on this, and yet they're playing right into it. Trump's having a fun time with it.
Here's a little aside. When Franklin Roosevelt died in April 1945, after serving 3 terms, he was just elected to his 4th term. He was only 63 years old. Mm. Donald Trump now is 78 years old.
That's right. He'd be the oldest. Yeah.
And so give him another 4 terms. No, it's just out of the question. But it's driven the Democrats and the media crazy, which Trump loves.
Yeah, yeah. And who knows? Maybe by that time he'll be the first president with 2 presidential libraries. He'd be so beloved or something. Oh, they could hate him. I don't know. I'll throw him up. But let's turn our attention to something else that came out this week. There's a new book written by reporters, one from The Hill, Jonathan Allen and Amy Pons, and it's called Fight, Inside the Wildest Battle for the White House. And these 2 reporters talked to over 150 staffers and White House insiders.
Janitors, cooks.
Over the course of 4 years. But one of the amazing revelations, which most people knew, but not precisely. As far back as December 2023, they said Biden's top aides were meeting to formulate a plan to get him either out of the presidency, the office, or to make a change. They were scheming because they knew his health was declining, and they themselves did not think he would stand up to the test of time. Some of them even thought that he might perish in the White House. He was declining so rapidly, but they saw that his diminished abilities would jeopardize a government, and yet they kept that to themselves, Peter. And it's revealed now in this book that's coming out. Little, I had to read this on, I call it the dark web. It was there on, this is only the Microsoft network.
This is only the first of several books coming out.
Yes.
Mentioning the same subject, how he was diminished in capacity mentally and physically and were not fit to govern. And reporters knew it back then. That's a disgrace. Yeah. Granted, the people around Joe Biden kept him in this bubble to protect him and run the country, because he obviously wasn't. But they knew about it. Mm. And the average citizen knew something was wrong. Just watching him fall downstairs and bump into people and shake hands with invisible aides and stuff like that. The average citizen could tell something was wrong with the guy.
Yeah. But isn't that in some way a breaking the law? I mean, knowing that someone can't do their job as president, almost 80 million people voted for Joe Biden to be president in 2020. He wasn't up for the task. If you love, as the Democrats say, they love democracy and stuff, wasn't it up to someone in that group to come out and say, hey, that he can't do the job, he has to leave? The country could be in a dangerous situation because of this. And now all these revelations about the auto pen and everything else that's coming out, who was making the decisions? Who made the decision of Abbey Gate, where 13 service members died in Afghanistan? Everybody, even the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said we should have never withdrew under those circumstances, but they had to follow orders from the civilian commander-in-chief and stuff.
If he made the order. We don't know that now. But what bugs me is these very reporters writing these books now all knew he had diminished capacity. Mm-hmm. They knew it back then, but they didn't write about it then. And it's a disgrace.
It was a big cover-up.
It was a big cover-up. It's just like Woodward when he wrote a book about General Mark Miley, talking to the Chinese behind Donald Trump's back in the first administration. He didn't write about it when it happened. He saved it for his book.
Yeah.
And it's just, reporters in Washington are just like congressmen. They're politicians themselves.
Look, that's a pretty good one. I never heard that, but you're right.
Yeah,
They formulate opinion. I mean, it's amazing. But I mean, that should outrage.
Listen, they're liable to get
American citizens more.
They're going to pull a surprise for this book. Just like
Probably will.
Just like reporters in the New York Times and Washington Post got Pulitzer Prizes for phony stories about Donald Trump and Russian collusion.
Yeah. To your point.
How they covered up in Hunter Biden's laptop from hell.
Yeah. The Russia hoax and everything else. It's amazing. It's getting worse, and something's.
So if you put me in for a Pulitzer, I don't want it.
All right. Maybe the Nobel Peace Prize. But. Okay, to your point about Trump, when he finishes his term, he'll be the oldest president, right?
Right.
In American history.
Yeah.
Okay, what if a year or two from now, he starts losing
he'll be impeached.
His mind.
He'll be impeached. The media will be all over him like they were not for Joe Biden.
Well, I mean, shouldn't the staffers closest to him? You think that if the things were flipped, that they will? Do they have an obligation to come out and say, "Hey, he failed his fitness report"? Because they always have doctors come in, the White House doctors and everything and stuff, and
Absolutely.
he's acting irrational.
Yes, but don't count on it happening. Don't count. Let's go back. It just reminds me of the Vietnam War. How McNamara, Secretary of Defense, was a big champion of the war. He did everything that LBJ wanted him to do, pursuing the war in Vietnam, which eventually cost us 55,000 American deaths. And McNamara knew we were not winning that war, and there was no way we could win it the way we were fighting it. And he withheld that information from the public until after he left the White House, and finally confessed after it was all over. Took responsibility, but then it was too late. So I don't expect anyone to emerge from the Biden administration to admit anything about auto pens or governing in his while he was asleep, which was most of the time, or anything like that. I don't expect it. Do you?
No, I don't, and it's troubling, very is, because I think you talk about the valued institutions in America, and Americans are losing faith in a lot of the institutions. Who do you trust? Who do you turn to? And it's really sad what's going on. I mean, look at the latest polls. The Democrats' favorability rating was down to 27%. Yes, Donald Trump's numbers have dropped, I think, 3 percentage points, but he's still in the high 40s, 47%. And if you look at his individual policies, immigration, he's over 50% and stuff. So, who would have thought that the Democratic Party would be so low at this time? And even the Republican Party, I mean, they're in the 30s too. That's nothing to crow about and stuff. So if you can't trust your politicians, I imagine if they said the media, do you trust the media? They're probably lower than Congress, I would imagine.
Just about as low. About as low. So, with good reason.
So car salesmen are higher, I guess.
With good reason. Not the Tesla sale. The Tesla salesman are having a rough time right now.
Yeah, Tesla salesman.
Except when I go buy one.
But so you wonder what is going to happen to change all this. I mean, it's you look at the educational slide in this country. Some schools don't even teach civics and American history anymore.
Look, for the last 50 years, the left has trashed one institution after another in this country: the church, the education system, the military, the police. And now things are turning back. Trump is turning everything back and restoring these institutions. For instance, what Pete Hegseth is doing with the military. That's only one example. I hope it's not too late. I don't think it is too late. But he is turning all these institutions back to what they were in the face of tremendous opposition from the Democratic Party, which is party to the trashing of the institutions.
Well, hopefully something will change and it'll be positive change. And I surely hope that someone emerges on the Democratic side to be a statesman, to be reasonable, and to hopefully work with Republican and independent counterparts. Bring us back to the center, you know. But with that thought, you made a good point. He's Peter Lucas. Read his column 3 times weekly in the Boston Herald. Anything else, Peter, on your list?
You know, there's a rally on Saturday in Boston Common. It's an anti-Musk, anti-Trump rally. But I just want to read a quote from one of the organizers of the rally, what they think of this country. And one of the things is, we will never bow to tyrants or kings or fascism. They're fighting fascism.
No.
They're fighting kings, and they're fighting tyrants on Boston Common. I mean, what era are we in?
I know.
Going to go to Lexington and Concord.
Or Bunker Hill, better. They get wiped out. So anyway.
Who said that? From what organization?
The organization is called Boston Hands Off, and they're sponsoring a rally on Boston Common, at which our distinguished Senator Ed Markey would be speaking.
You mean he's going to come up to leave his beautiful manse in Georgetown? And that's in Washington, by the way, Washington, D.C. And he's gonna come in and step on Massachusetts
If he doesn't
soil?
get lost in the Freedom Trail.
Yeah, good. No, I mean, it just goes to show you the hysteria among these people, and people are just swallowing all that crap. It's really, really sad, really is. And we're supposed to be an educated state with an educated population.
We, the people of Massachusetts, will come together to tell the corrupt, cruel, chaotic tyrants in D.C., hands off Boston.
Oh my God, it's crazy talk. Good thing that we still have free speech in America. And
Good thing we have a sense of humor.
Yeah, I know. Good. Well, until next time, this is Boston Bros. We'll see you next week. Okay, Peter?
Right on.